when people say, Subdivisions is one of the top Rush songs, I wouldn't agree.
So we're two huge Rush fans. We've got tickets to see the band for the first time in concert next year as part of their 50-something tour. And in the lead-up, we're doing this series called Road to Rush, where we go through every single Rush album one per week and share our thoughts. This time, it's the turn of the band's 9th studio album, Signals. What did you think?
It's a revisitor for me, but you can definitely tell a man with a very big cigar in a record company told him to... maybe a big booth, actually, for the second half of the album. But yeah, they're very commercial.
Yeah.
I liked it in many ways.
Yeah.
But some of the commerciality spoiled it a tiny bit.
Okay. So for me, this felt like another reboot of the band. You know, every few albums we get a reboot album. In the way that 2112 was the reboot album, and then
Here we are now.
And then Permanent Waves was a reboot. I feel like this album was a reboot yet again. It introduces a totally new production style for the band, a totally new sound. I think it was really subtly complicated. That's what I felt with this album.
Yeah.
You know, like I was thinking about Subdivisions, and I was thinking it's just G, A, and B minor, but with the drumming and the way Peart's playing, it just manages to become this other thing, doesn't it? And I feel like there was a conscious effort, especially on Neil Peart's part, not to coast and to try and play some things really differently. Like in Subdivisions, when he's doing those kind of open hats and ride beats and things like that. That's really different and unusual.
Yeah.
And it really sort of fills out this space nicely and complements the synth. This is the first album where fans would say Alex Lifeson gets a bit of a backseat due to the keyboards and synthesizers. But there were some bits where I could hear the guitar was mixed really far back, and I felt a bit bad. I was like, if I was there, I would have just pushed him up. I could hear he was doing something interesting.
Some of the tapping bits
were
quite
but I wanted to hear the note. Like on the earlier albums, I wanted to hear like on Limelight, I wanted to hear his picks scraping through the strings. So I really enjoyed this one though. I think it's one of the only ones where I got to the end and I thought, let's do it again, right on the spot.
I did feel like, obviously it came after Moving Pictures.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of, is that just one of those tracks that played a bit slower?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that element, especially guitar tones. It copped it with that 80s guitar sound.
Yeah.
But that still had the heavy element about it. But I do think there was far too many fades out for us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fair enough, there weren't loads of big rock endings like there normally was, but fade outs are just cop outs, really.
And like you say, there was a lot of reggae. The reggae had been very sparse up until this point.
Yeah.
Rush. You had bits in Witch Hunt and Vital Signs which were a bit reggae. You obviously had the reggae verse in Spirit of the Radio. But there were tracks which were all out reggae from start to finish, weren't there?
Yeah, and it took you to that surprising Police Place.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't out in your face. It was definitely three, not reggae gentlemen playing reggae.
Yeah. Or as Stuart Copeland will call it was white reggae, wasn't it?
I was just trying to avoid the term just in case.
Stuart Copeland said it. I'm just quoting Stuart Copeland, so we can't get cancelled for that. I'm just repeating one. But no, I really enjoyed this one. I think I really had a lot of fun with it, and I think it had a sense of mystery about it, which made me want to revisit it, in which the other albums maybe didn't have in places.
I definitely missed things.
Yeah.
And I know they were there, and I didn't just get the full experience straight away because I was too busy analysing it really for this thing. But I think this is the second time I've done a run through, and the familiarity has really ended after the third track, and I was sort of lost in this new Rush world, but it wasn't as predictable. There was more synth. But I wouldn't have said the synth took too much lead.
No, I think it's an exaggeration. I think when this era, we're yet to come to the domination of synth and power windows. And
ponytails.
Yeah. I think the defining factor is that when there's still an actual headstock on Geddy Lee's bass, there's a good amount of guitar, but when the headstock disappeared and he went onto the Steinberger, that was the beginning of the end in terms of those sort of elements. And I think, in terms of playing, I think this is Alex Lifeson's masterpiece in terms of how technically it's like. The one moment that really blew me away on the album was his solo on the Analog Kid, the second song.
Yeah, in fact, now you've pointed it out, I did think that it's a lot of drive in the first half of the album, and that was probably the most driven.
Yeah. And it just really jumped out. It's one of those, when you're listening to music, some of the stuff pulls you right into it, and that solo was one where I had to stop thinking about anything else and just focus on the blaze of notes from Alex Lifeson that he'd given us at the front.
The weapon, the man I mean.
Yeah. As we discussed, the weapon shared some similarities to 80s Mike Oldfield and a bit of disco, didn't it? And it had a bit of everything in there. I really enjoyed the last song, Countdown.
Yes.
There was some really, I think the way they used samples in that was really clever, and there were some really odd sort of chords and odd rhythms in there that really stuck out to me. I thought, this is really, a lot of the stuff on this album wasn't necessarily music that I would say I loved, but was interesting. Like I was
Yeah.
like, this is interesting. I don't love it, but it's interesting, and that interestingness makes me want to listen to it again and go back to it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
I hope they play Subdivisions when we see them live next year. There you go,
I feel I was throwing a bit of a
red.
red herring with Subdivisions being the best track on the album.
Do you think so?
It was like, just there's a sort of element of it could have gone a bit more there.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's still a great song, you know.
Yeah.
But when people say "Oh, Subdivisions is one of the top Rush songs," I wouldn't agree.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
very sparse, isn't it? It's very sort of a different sounding to something like Tom Sawyer, for example, or something from the previous album like The Camera Eye that's got a lot of keyboards in. It's got this kind of more aggressive sort of sound to it. Like, you really feel like the synth is kicking you in the chest at the start of Subdivisions.
True, yeah. Even though it is quite a soft sort of sound, and you know, obviously the bass drum as well.
Yeah.
But no, it is when it kicks in and you get the structure behind you. It is a really cracking track.
Yeah, so in the time between this video, filming this video and the last one, the 2 Rick Beato interviews have dropped with Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson. And Alex Lifeson singled this album out as an album that he was really happy with the songs, but really unhappy with the production and the mix.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I agree.
I can agree with that,
I agree with
a bit
that
wet.
standpoint. Yeah, and this was the sort of the turning point where after this they decided not to really work with Terry Brown again for a while.
Or Tez's last album. Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's maybe time for it was time for a change. You know, Terry had been with them since the first album, since he mixed the first album. Like anything, you know, they probably got to this point and they finished Signals and they probably thought, let's change it up, you know. Like they said, they hate repeating themselves, and I admire that they didn't just do another Moving Pictures.
And technology's increased. Your man's obviously changed ideas.
Yeah.
So, yeah, why not?
Lots more drugs were available at that point.
Especially boofs, according to this album.
Yeah, so yeah, favourite track?
It's either Analog King or Losing It, to be honest. But I think Analog King for the driving and Losing It for the more technical aspect of it.
Yeah, for me it doesn't get any better than Subdivisions. I just love that song. I think it's Subdivisions. Yeah, like on the last one. Really. So I really enjoyed this one. Gonna give it a solid 8 out of 10, I think.
I think I'll go in the same place.
Yeah.
There was no disappointment at all, but I think if I give it another 3 goes, I'll go, actually, the best one.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those.
Yeah. What do you think of the Rush album Signals? Let us know in the comments below. Let us know if you also think the album cover is absolutely crap. Join us next week for Grace Under Pressure.